some information about Carol Dweck's book.
Okay. I'm Susan Boyer. I think we all know each other. Peter and I have had so much fun doing this together. It all started one day when we just started talking about the book. And we had that conversation right after I had my last parent coffee where we had 5 parents. And I thought, I think I've got to look at some other things. Well, I think one reason that there were so few parents at that coffee, it was about our technology program, which is stellar. And we know that generally when people are happy with things and so forth, and this is what I said to Mr. Kanzinger, they already know about it. And our technology program is very, very well established. Well, I learned so much listening to Mr. Kanzinger talk about it because there's so much that we do at each level, starting with our LE students. So in sharing that story with Peter, we thought, well, why don't we do something together? And we had just had this conversation about mindsets. Mindsets is not new. This book came out in 2006. And we all know in education, there's always something new. But time has lent credibility to mindsets. It is not a flash in the pan. It has definitely changed the way we do things, the way we think. And this book had a big personal impact on me, I think, as well as Peter. And a lot of the time when we were together in our offices preparing for this, we ended up going off on tangents about our own childhood, about our own teaching, about our own personal relationships, because mindsets affects all of these. Everything we do here, we link back to our mission, to be a learning community committed to discovering and developing individual potential, preparing each student for success in college and life. And mindsets is all about that individual potential piece of our mission.
It is helpful to know, as we look at this as a framework to view what we do, that our mission is written from what hopefully you'll learn as a growth mindset. The idea that our ability to react and move within the world is not constrained by a born gift, something that we get and receive at birth and to which we cannot achieve anything higher or to aspire to anything more than what we come out of the womb with. And for our mission to be focused on developing and discovering individual potential, I think is critical to see in writing about what it is that we do. If we don't have potential and we're looking at pre-K students, then what are we doing? The idea that we don't have much to do other than either meet their born gift or fail to meet that, I think misunderstands the opportunity of education and certainly misunderstands the mission of the school.
This is a great summary of, I think, the core of what's in this book. In a fixed mindset, the main key here is it's a desire to look smart and therefore. It's all about appearing to know it all right? And in order to appear to know it all, whether you're 6 or 60, when you come to a challenge, you avoid it. By avoiding the challenge, then nobody can know that you don't know how. When you have an obstacle, very quick to give up, and you give up easily. This happens especially with children who have a lot of natural gifts. And CFA is chock-a-block full of these kids. Kids where the learning's easy, the sport's easy, the musical instrument, it's easy. It just seems to come. Well, here's where the mindset is so important, because at some point, it will not be easy. And you don't want to be that person or have that child who gives up. Effort. Effort's the enemy. You don't want to look like anything requires effort. Criticism. Negative feedback is really, really tough when you're in a fixed mindset, because you take it personally, you take it to heart, it shuts you down. The success of others. You don't like it. The higher somebody else climbs, the lower you look. So you don't really want to be around people who outshine you, outplay you, outscore you. And as a result, they may plateau early and achieve less than their full potential. If some faces, images of people have flashed through your mind while I've been talking, we know them. You may see yourself in this. I certainly do. This book caused me to reflect greatly. I think I was about a senior in high school when I decided I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. So I'm not gonna do this stuff I'm not good at. I'm just gonna do the things I am good at. Well, that's very, very limiting. Peter.
So fixed mindset is not stubborn. It's not a synonym for getting entrenched in a position and just believing something and fixing your mind on a particular point of view. It's a way of viewing and approaching the world. The growth mindset is an opposite approach. The idea that the world in front of you is offering challenges to which you can aspire to overcome the challenge, and the challenge in doing is the reward. So we hear the motivational videos that talk about this, and we look at athletes and we know that they aspire to this. So as we embrace challenge or persist in the face of setbacks, if we see effort as a path to mastery, learn from criticism, find lessons and inspiration in the success of others, and reach even higher levels of achievement, not to reach the threshold to which was predetermined for us, but to constantly find an opportunity to create a new threshold. That is the idea of a growth mindset. And it is a way of looking at and perceiving the world. And the nice feature about these mindsets are they are changeable and swappable. You can approach a situation from a fixed mindset. You can also be coached into approaching it from a growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset, you can be moved into a fixed mindset and vice versa. It is not as, just like intelligence is not static, or physical ability is not static, neither is mindset. We can float in and out of these states, but it is about us being aware and being able to choose the state in which we exist. And we believe, and I especially believe in the middle school, and I certainly see it in lower school as well, that we have to be approaching our students from the idea that they are not going to underperform on a regular basis the level to which they can aspire, and that every challenge is going to be a description of failure, but rather an opportunity for success. So from our questions that we sent you throughout the mailings, we had a question of what are the commonalities of these individuals. So first we have Muggsy Bogues.
Does anybody know about him?
Of course.
Sure.
Yep.
Basketball player.
And?
He's 5 foot tall.
That's right.
And fast.
How
Little
about
and
Doug
fast.
Flutie?
Short, 5'2".
Too small?
I'm sorry, Peter Gray. One-arm baseball player.
Made it to the majors.
Ben Hogan, too clumsy. Glenn Cunningham, too disfigured. Larry Bird, too slow. Muhammad Ali, too unconventional. Wilma Rudolph, too weak. And Michael Jordan, too undisciplined. So, their commonality? Not one of them was naturally able to do what they ended up achieving to do. None of them was told from the beginning, you have the gift. You have been touched by the hand of God, and you are going to be Michael Jordan of the NBA, who's going to end up owning a franchise based on your performance at your job. Nice job. Not one of them fell into that criteria.
These are all off of page 84, which I just read and reread and reread. I thought, and there's more examples of this. Michael Jordan being the local favorite, he was cut from his varsity high school basketball team. I didn't know that when I read the book. Then he really wanted to go to NC State. They didn't want him. He had to go to Chapman. He didn't get drafted by the first 2 picks. But it was his mother who said when he got cut from the varsity team, you need to go discipline yourself. It's just striking. Hence, Michael Jordan, but not a natural.
So our answer to question 1 about percentages, differences in performance with a growth and a fixed mindset. This will take a second to load, I apologize.
There's a lot available on the internet. If you just type in mindsets, you'll come up with all kinds of videos. There are several lasting in anywhere from an hour to 10 minutes with Carol Dweck herself talking about her book. This is one we found. 5 minutes sums it up.
So check this out. Carol Dweck and her colleagues wanted to look into the impacts that praise had on children's development. So what they did is they took over 400 fifth grade students from all across the nation, and they did a really simple yet interesting study. Here's how it went down. They gave all the kids a really, really easy nonverbal IQ test. There were 10 questions, and at the end of the test, they praised all the children in one of 2 ways. The first group was praised for their intelligence. So they said, wow, great job, you must be really smart at this. Now the second group was praised for their effort. So they said, wow, great job, you must have worked really, really hard at this. Now this is a really subtle difference, but the impact it had is incredible. So after praising the kids and getting them divided up into the 2 groups, they gave them all an option for their next test. The first option was, hey, this next test is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to be a great opportunity to learn and grow. Now the second option was, this next test will be similar to the first, and you will surely do well on it. Now the interesting thing is, out of the group that was praised for their intelligence, 67% of them chose the easier option, while 92% of the kids who were praised for their effort chose the harder test. This is unbelievable to think about, how just the subtle difference in the way that they were praised had such an impact. Carol Dweck explains why this happened.
The child or adult hears, oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented. That's why you admire me. That's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation. As a result, they enter a fixed mindset, they play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talents. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they're stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they're doing, those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. As a result, they don't feel, oh, if I make a mistake, you won't think I'm talented. They think, oh, if I don't take on hard things and stick to them, I'm not going to grow.
Next, Dweck and her colleagues gave all the kids a really, really difficult test. It was one that they would surely fail, but they wanted to look at how the different kids attacked this challenge. Dweck noticed that the group that was praised for effort worked harder, longer, and actually enjoyed this test more than the group that was praised for their intelligence. This group got really frustrated with this test and had the tendency to give up early. After this artificially induced failure round, all of the kids were given a third and final test. Now this test was the same level of difficulty as the first one, but check out the results. The group that was praised for their intelligence actually did worse on this test than the first one. Their average score actually dropped by 20%, while the group that was praised for their effort did significantly better, raising their average score by nearly 30%. This is a 50% difference in performance that was caused by a few subtle differences in the way that they were praised. This study shows how praise can either make or break a child's development. I mean, we all do it. We all want to be positive with the children we work with, so teachers, coaches, parents are always looking for ways to support their kids and tend to praise them quite a bit. So we need to look at research like this and realize, okay, praise is a good thing and there's nothing wrong with being positive, but we need to be very careful about praising someone's intelligence or abilities and focus more on the process and the effort that they put forth. I think this is a pretty easy fix that will help us develop growth mindsets within the kids that we work with. And as all the research shows, having a growth mindset has a big time impact on the development of a child, whether it's on the court, in the classroom, or just in life. Thanks so much for following along and watching this video. For more like this, visit championshipbasketballschool.com and click on the championship newsletter. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
The study that's based on has been repeated multiple times, always with the same results. So, you know, in the 6 years since this has been published, it has gained in its credibility.
So for our purposes, following that video, where do we see this happening? Where do we see this taking place? The idea that you can frame something very quickly. Now, the students that participated in the study that Carol directed didn't know about this. They didn't understand the game necessarily that they're being put into. So the ability for us to be able to put ourselves into a frame of mind has a significant impact on our opportunity to be successful. And we know this to be true in a variety of different ways. And we think it's our responsibility to put children into whatever frame of mind it takes for them to be successful. In earlier studies, we know that that frame of mind is important. Women, for example, when asked to check a box before taking a test as to their gender, scored worse on that test than women who took the same test in a similar group that did not have to simply identify their gender.
The same with minorities. Same with minorities.
And the same with having to check race on the box as you go. Being reminded for women that you are a woman and you are taking a test has an amount of performance anxiety associated with it, which ends up, strangely, the desire to do well decreasing scores. We feel something similar is true with mindsets, that if we have the opportunity to remind students before taking assessment or during the day that it is how hard they're willing to try or put the effort in, or better, that their brain is like a muscle, and the more they exercise it, the smarter they will be. Not just they will reach the smartness that they have, but that they have the ability to make themselves smarter. That simple reminder and cue before entering into an opportunity to show what they know puts them into the mindset of being able to be successful.
I was thinking back to the years that I was teaching, and anytime I would have to go to a board and draw, I would always say, now you know Ms. Boyer is an artist, or please forgive me for my stick figures, and then I would go on and I would do what I needed to do. Another part of this book that was especially striking was a study where people came into a room who did not consider themselves to have any artistic ability. And after a 5-day course, they were asked to sketch their own portraits. And you can see this is an example of one. There's also a page full of them in the book that's even more striking. And I thought, you know, if I had said, I've never taken art lessons. It's something I'd like to do. I haven't taken the time, so I haven't learned how to draw. And then made those stick figures or whatnot, it would have been a different approach. I wouldn't have been projecting that mindset of I can't. Any ideas about what that word is that you can say when your child says, I can't? It's just one.
So not only do we see this playing out academically, but we also see this playing out socially in how kids interact with each other when they can approach each other from a fixed mindset. I overheard a conversation the other day with some students sitting around the lunch table talking about the recent performance on a test. And one of the kids did particularly well. And the other students happened to know what the score was. They talk about it and they know what each other's scores. And one of the other those students at the table said, what was wrong with you? You did really well on that test. So it was about their ability. It was something was wrong with them. It wasn't, the question wasn't, how did you do that? Or what did you do to be successful on that test? The response was, what's wrong with you? As if there's a quality of their character that allowed them to be successful on an assessment that they didn't own, that they didn't have. And the only response is, I don't have it. Whatever you have that got you that success, my only opportunity is to take that down, is to point that out as a flaw, not necessarily as a gift. because that's the only level on which you can compete in a level of a fixed mindset. Now, as Carol Dweck was talking sort of metacognitively about the thinking that goes on in a child as they're saying, well, I can't, that is actually not at all what's happening. Those of you with middle school students know the ready, fire, aim mentality. I mean, they're doing stuff before they even think about it. They're not processing their way through this and acting in a way that they are saying, you know what, this is how I'm going to approach that person I'm sitting with at lunch when I talk about their test score to project a fixed mindset. They are reacting to each other, and it comes out not only socially, academically, but it takes place at every level of interaction with you, perhaps at home, with us in the classroom, with us outside of the classroom, and in the environment.
I think in the lower school, if any of you have come and seen our talent showcases, where kids play the piano, sing, dance, play the guitar, recite poetry, this made me think about conversations I have with my son after that, because he'll say, so-and-so is great playing the piano, so-and-so is a great musician, a great singer. And my response was, yeah, they really are. How do you think they got there? And when he comes home talking about the kids who ace their multiplication table, like bam, 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 why? And take it back to, what are they doing that you're not doing? Are you drilling at home? If you are, I don't see it. So it's really helped me talk to him, because yes, people are going to excel, and yes, they're going to go faster than you are, but you need to look at what they're doing. It's not just some magical, he's smart in math. And my kid is surrounded by kids who are smart in math. Well, what are they doing? They're putting in effort. And here's the word that I've been using with him since reading this book. I can't. You're right, you can't. You can't yet. It makes all the difference. It puts it back on the child. You can't yet. I can't do something yet because I haven't put in the effort. And that's where the ownership lies. And it makes it, I think it takes away some of the resentment from those people who you're surrounded by who can excel in all this. What you don't see is at home them playing that piano for an hour a night instead of the mandatory 10 minutes that I force you to do it. So that one powerful word has really changed the way that I'm talking to my son. Yet. No, you can't. You can't do it yet. It's powerful.
So where do we see this played out at school? Where do we see the growth mindset most often? I think we see it most often in two places. One, maybe not surprisingly, is around video games. When a child is engaging with a video game, everyone else, they're holding their phone and they're doing their game, and 8 are hovering, trying to take a peek at the screen, watching what they're doing, watching how they're playing. And when they beat a level, it's not, oh man, you're horrible. Like you have some like, oh, I can't. It is, how'd you do that? It's like, do it again. I want to see it being done. They engage in each other at that level of growth. The idea of dying on a level is, oh, do it again. It's not, whoop, character's dead. That's it. Goodbye, $10 from the iTunes store. That's not how those games are engineered. They are built on the idea that capability and capacity is topless. That you can go to any level if you put in the time, if you put in the energy, that any level is achievable, and they're designed to do that. The second place that I think we are lucky to see it here at Cape Fear Academy is on the athletic field. We have more students in the middle school going out for a sport that they don't play or haven't played before than I think I've seen. We have a culture where taking a risk, and we have coaches that support the risk, particularly for our girls, that says, give it a try. Come on out, see how you do. And how you do is not going to be always how you do. The first time you try to dribble the basketball is not going to be your best effort. And we'll wait and we'll see it when you get there.
There are great examples in this book of people in the field of sports in the fixed mindset, John McEnroe being one of them. And we all know how it was always the sawdust is too coarse, the sawdust is too fine. I was distracted, I overtrained, I undertrained. Never did he take ownership. Never did he have the idea that I can grow from failure. He always was proving. That's what the fixed mindset does. It puts you in a place where you always have to prove. And in talking with this book, my dad and Chumpy were there. I pulled, this is what's great with technology. We pulled up John McEnroe and we watched him throw fits. And fortunately, they were bleeping it just about the right time. But not always, but close. That was another conversation. But, you can show your kids bad examples. You can show them Bobby Knight taking that chair and flinging it across the floor of the basketball court. You can have these conversations with your kids. And this book, that's what makes it entertaining to read. It is chock-a-block full of real examples.
And so with that, we'd like to close with one of her quotes at the end of the book that we think is important. That mindset change is not about picking up a few pointers here and there. It's about seeing things in a different way. When people, couples, coaches, athletes, managers, workers, parents and children, teachers and students change to a growth mindset, they change from a judge and be judged framework to a learn and help learn framework. Their commitment is to growth, and growth takes plenty of time, effort, and mutual support. One of the great opportunities we have here at Cape Fear Academy is time. We have time. Every year, we are not racing to a test. Every year, we are not looking at the last day of school as some arbitrary goalpost that we have to kick our kids through every single time. And if they're already there, great, and the ones that aren't, we have to get there, but we're going to put on a ceiling. We have the time to allow, as our mission says, to develop, but also to discover the individual potential that can allow our students the opportunity to access greatness. And the great part about it is that we don't know necessarily where that greatness will come from.
Well said, Mr. Ventura.
So that is it in terms of our formal presentation. We're more than happy to continue to talk about either some of your perspectives, if you'd like to share. Certainly our own histories are chock with this kind of opportunity. I think our experiences were very different as we talked. I think I got lucky. I ended up in more of a growth mindset than I think in Susan's experience we did. I got cut from my baseball team, sort of similar in the same my senior year, and just had a friend who was on the track team and went out for track, and then did 8 seasons of track in college. I just thought, well, what the heck? I've played baseball for a dozen years. I might as well try something else, because sophomore is going to play first base, and I'm a lefty, and they don't need any other first baseman, and they're going to play him, so might as well not ride the bench. But rather than sort of sit there and sort of believe that that was the end of my talent, I took an opportunity to try something different. I think that we have a responsibility to not close any doors, to keep as many doors open as long as possible, to allow kids to step through, but occasionally we need to push them through a little bit. We need to give them a little kick to say, this is where you go. Not yet.
I was really impressed with what Becky Copenhaver does every year. She invites freshmen back at Christmas time, and they talk about their college experiences and what was tough and what was not so tough. And one thing that struck me, and I was watching these videos when I was in the interviewing process for this school. And interviews go both ways. So it's like, do you want me, but do I want you? And after watching this video, I thought they're doing something really special at Cape Fear, because those kids talked about how they would go to their professors and ask for help. That doesn't just start when you hit college. That's something that you got that idea that, no, I don't know it, but I can know it. I need help to know it. And that courage, that habit of asking for help, of going to your teachers, when you do that at the college level, that speaks volumes for where you came from. So that especially was so impressive about Cape Fear. And I see that with our young ones. There's the teachers want them to ask questions. They are praised for asking questions. not necessarily always having the right answers, but for asking the questions. Our teachers have been also talking about this book and seeing the questions we put out, and we're going to start our own voluntary study of this book because they've shown a lot of interest in it. In learning communities like ours, where we are in the business of learning, if as leaders in the school, as teachers, if we're not learning ourselves, then it cannot be a school of excellence. And we learn so much here together. Technology lends itself beautifully. One of the teachers, or one of our third grade teachers, did a great job using some videos to show what was going on in the classroom. And I thanked her for that. And then all these videos started flying, or emails started flying back and forth about all the other ways this same software is being used in the lower school. And in this day and age, if you're not willing to learn, if you're not okay with not looking like you don't know it all the time, you're just dead in the water. But I feel like we really are a community of learners here. Our teachers live it. They're enthused. They're excited about what they're learning. They're going to Columbia. They're students themselves. It all goes back to this idea of being in a growth mindset. So I feel like we're on the right path, but the first step we all know is awareness. So if you read this book, and I hope you do, I hope this has whet your appetite to read this book, I think it really will bring to the forefront the idea that these two mindsets do creep into every aspect of your life. The personal relationships chapter was very interesting. They're all interesting, but
If you have any questions or anything, this sort of concludes the formal elements, and we're happy to either talk about things that you've seen, certainly as far as either of our conversations. But thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
So $9.50 on Amazon. Find it.